Hey guys, we are Board Game Perspective, and we're going to be taking a look at Planetarium today, published by Game Salute. And as you can tell, this has a space theme.
Surprise.
You're going to be dealing with planets and different element tokens. Everything is going to be moving in this circular pattern, and you're going to be trying to crash elements onto planets to get resources and basically trying to help these 4 different planets to evolve. So there's definitely a lot of hand management, different cards you can play, and I will say the art's pretty nice on these cards.
I do like the art.
Yeah, so let's take a brief look at how to play, and then we'll come back up with our final thoughts. Let's do a brief overview of how to play. So real quick, setting up is not that difficult. You're just going to be placing all these matter tokens at random on all these little dots out here. You have the starting points for the planets. So for instance, B goes here. You have final evolution, high, and low evolution cards. You're going to shuffle those up. Each player is going to put out some of their tokens. You have the 10s and the 1s over here. Each planet in the corner starts with a hostile side token. And each player gets their own player board and some cubes. And lastly, each player gets some starting cards. Now players are going to be taking turns back and forth until the end of the game, and the goal of the game is to get the most points. And the end of the game will be triggered once this evolution track is all the way filled up here, then that's going to trigger the end of the game. So the actual turn structure is fairly simple. On your turn, all you're going to be doing is first move a token, so either a matter token or a planet token. After that, you have the chance to play one of your cards if you can meet the cost. If you play a card, then you will be drawing a card. And that is your turn, and players are going to be taking turns like that back and forth. When moving tokens, all tokens have to move in a clockwise manner, or so in this orbit. Now you can either move a planet token or a matter token. And to start, matter tokens can only move one space, and a space is simply, so say these weren't there, movement is just going to be going from a dot to a dot. So if I wanted to move one of these tokens, I would just simply do this. Also, matter tokens cannot move onto or through other spaces that have matter tokens. However, you can move onto a space with a planet token. So for instance, if on my turn I wanted to move this matter token and have it crash into planet B, then you're going to put that token onto the planet B portion of your player board. As you can see, there are these thicker orbit lines and also these thinner lines. Now, tokens can move, of course, on the main orbit line, or they can switch orbits and use the thin line. So let's say that token wasn't there. If I wanted to, I could move this matter token, so a point for the point from here to here on this thin line. So I could move it like that. Now, planet tokens have a special movement that they can do. They can do what's called sweeping out its orbit. So for instance, that is only going to be used with the thick orbit lines. So what I could do is I could grab this A planet and sweep it out on its orbit until it collides with a matter token. So for instance, I could sweep out its orbit, collide with this matter token, and then I would place that token onto the A section of my board. Now let's say that token was not there. I can still sweep out my orbit. I can actually pass over another planet and land on a matter token and then claim that. You just can't obviously end your movement on another planet token. So after you moved your token and possibly collected some tokens, then you have the chance to play a card. And the cost to play the cards are on this left side here. And you have low evolution cards, high evolution cards, and final. The final cards can only be played on your final turn. So the low cards are going to be a little cheaper. And then let's see, let's find a high evolution card like this one here. It's basically a higher cost. So for instance, if I wanted to play this card, I would have to turn in all of these matter tokens from one planet. So if I had all those resources on one planet, so for instance, I have it on planet A, that satisfies all of those resources, then I could play this card. So I'm going to play this card, but first I'm going to turn in all of these resource or matter tokens, and they go immediately to the evolution track. And this is kind of how you keep progress of the game. In addition to turning in those tokens, so the cost, you will also be playing that card that you had just paid for onto that planet. So that we played Planet A. So this card is going to be placed out next to Planet A. And this is going to keep track of whether this planet is going to be hostile or habitable. So you're always going to place out one of your cubes as well. And then to figure out whether it's habitable or hostile, you're going to be basically adding up the sum of all of the hostile cards, which is this gray banner here. And then if I had, so a habitable card is going to show this green, and then that's a final card, and then hostile is going to show that. So basically you're gonna add up the sum of all the hostile cards versus all the habitable cards, and whichever one is greater will determine if that planet is hostile or habitable. So this happens to be a hostile card, so this is going to remain hostile. And then make sure to record your score, so the victory points you get are the points in the upper right hand corner. So whenever you play that card, you get those points. So we played a card with a value of 8, so we're going to move up 8 points. Now on the rule book and both the board, it basically explains what some of the symbols mean, because on your cards, you're going to come across different symbols. So a lot of them have types of planets and tokens. So for instance, if I wanted to play this card, I would have to have all these tokens on one of these terrestrial planets. So that's going to be B or A. And then after you've played a card, then you get to draw an additional card. Now once this evolution track gets filled up all the way to this point, you see here this is basically an acceleration stage. So once a token gets placed there, then tokens can now move 2 places instead of 1. And once a player places a token on this final spot, then that's going to trigger the final turns. So on your final turn, this is where you get to play these white cards, the final evolution cards. And throughout the game, you can have, well, your hand size is going to be 5, but throughout the game, and particularly toward the end of the game, is when you're going to be starting to try to get more of these final evolution cards. And you can only have a max of 4. So this player only had 3, but they could have end up having 4 max if they wanted to. So basically this is a way to score more points. For instance, if I fulfilled this, I would be able to score 4 points, and then 12 points, so this is more difficult, etc. Now, so there's different references here. This means you have to take a cube from whichever planet you end up doing from one of your cards. You have to be able to retrieve a cube. And this means the planet has to be in orbit 1 through 3. So there's different orbits out here on the board, and to do this one, it has to be between 1 and 3. And it had to be a terrestrial planet. And some of the final cards might also say that the planet that you choose, in addition to all those things we talked about, it also might have to be habitable or hostile. And then after everyone has taken their final turn, you'll then see who has the most points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. I will also point out that in the back of the rulebook, there is a solo variant if you want to give that a try. And then there's also some scientific information if you want to read that as well. Alrighty, so as you can tell, this is a gorgeous looking game. I think the board is very pretty. I love seeing the orbits along all the lines that you can move across and all the different tokens out. I think the components are really nice in this game. Yeah. I love all of the score trackers. You got your translucent cubes. I love translucent stuff. And I really love the graphics on the cards. That really helps make the game for me. I really enjoy just looking at the cards. I mean, you have these cool, I'm trying to remember a couple, asteroids hitting things. It's just really, really intriguing to me, the different cards. What did you think about the gameplay? What did you like and not like about the game?
About this game, I mean, I'm with you on the artwork. I thought the artwork was really good. I thought, they did a really good job with what was on the cards, and the way all the planets looked and the different things
the overall production.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. I also liked the fact that it wasn't a long game. It didn't overstay its welcome necessarily or anything like that. I mean, it felt like you could see the progress as you're going. The way that you keep score, you can see how you're getting closer and closer and closer, and you can kind of anticipate things, and you just felt like it wasn't gonna be too long of a game.
Yeah, I do love that the score track is you putting the element tokens that were the resources to play the cards out on this track.
Yeah.
So like you said, you can see the progress of the game.
Yeah.
And I just think it looks cool. I thought it looked really pretty having all those element tokens up in this alongside the board.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah. So
anything else about the game you really liked?
I think there was definitely a little bit of thinkiness having to coordinate. Do you want to change orbits? Do you want to continue along the same orbit? Do you want to, kind of planning out some of the resources that you're going to find, but you may not be able to find it all in one place. You might have to jump a few different places to kind of build out what it is you're wanting to buy from the cards. So
I thought it was interesting just figuring out how to play different cards, because some of the prerequisites for the cards required it to be like this certain type of planet, was it gaseous or terrestrial, but also had to have certain resources on that section on your board. So just having to kind of plan out and figure out where you need to go with what planet was kind of interesting. But after a couple plays of that, you kind of start getting the hang of it. But the final evolution cards, every time I play it, it's still kind of brain bending, because especially if you have, I think you can have up to 4, especially if you have like 3 or 4 final evolution cards.
I can't imagine planning out 4 of them.
I think the last game we played, I was doing like 3 or maybe 4, I don't know. But you have to really think about, okay, I need this planet to be in this orbit, but it has to be a terrestrial planet, and I need to have those resources, the A section of my board, and
it needs to be habitable.
It needs to be habitable or hostile, and you have all those different scenarios for all the different final evolution cards you have. So it definitely, the very end can be very brain burning, because there's a lot of things that needs to go involved in how to get all those, basically the cost of the card. I found that it was definitely very thinky, but I've really enjoyed trying to really plan out how to do multiple final evolution cards. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. But leading up to that final part, what did you think about the gameplay? I mean, I feel like you were saying it felt repetitive.
Yeah, I feel like with everything kind of going in the same direction, and you could jump from orbit to orbit, you could do things like that, but it still felt like you were only doing the same 1 or 2 moves every single turn, and to me it did feel a little repetitive, and it's kind of weird, because usually I'm the kind of person that likes a game that is fairly simple, but it requires thinkiness to it, and this had that, but for some reason, I can't really put my finger on it, it didn't grab my attention all that much. I haven't played it very much, so I haven't figured out exactly how to plan ahead for the final evolution cards either. Maybe if I played it a little bit more, it might change my mind a little bit on it, but it was not my favorite. I'll just say that.
So, I mean, I could definitely see where it could be repetitive, because your turn is so simple. You literally are moving a token, which is either the planet or an element token, and then you're playing a card if you can. And that is your turn. And you're just going back and forth. So I can see where it can be repetitive. I think overall it's a decent game. I don't think it's awful. And I don't think it's like, wow, this is like the most amazing game ever.
I mean, I'm in the same place. I don't think it's a bad game. I don't think that at all.
Yeah, I think it's one, if you like, space themed games, especially like seeing things. I know you mentioned you maybe didn't like that you have to follow the orbit. I actually really enjoyed that. I liked that everything moved in this same direction.
I still think it's a decent game. I'm not like, no, I'm not gonna ever play this game again. I'm more along the lines of I would play it. I would play with somebody if they wanted to play it.
Yeah, so it's definitely worth checking out if you like space themed games and something lighter. I found it to be just kind of a delightful game, with the end being brain burning. Leading up to the end, well, I would say maybe the first 2/3 of the game is fairly, you know, laid back, nothing crazy going on. But then the last third of the game, when people start collecting final evolution cards, then it starts becoming a little more taxing on the brain. But yeah, if this game looks interesting to you, definitely check it out. Any other last thoughts?
I don't think so. Like I said, it's a decent game. Not my favorite, but I would definitely play it if somebody wanted to play it.
Yeah, and again, the overall production is great. I thoroughly enjoyed playing this game visually and tactilely. Is that even a word? Tactily. But yeah, guys, so that wraps up our thoughts for Planetarium. Let us know in the comments below if you played this. What are your thoughts about this game? And if you are new here, we would love to have you join along and subscribe to the channel and follow along for more content like this. And if you found today helpful, feel free to like this video. And until next time, guys, we appreciate you guys watching, and thanks for, or happy gaming.
See ya!